Greetings, parish orphans and retrogrades. The so-called trad wife has hit the popular mainstream, at least within conservatism, so hard that I am so happy. Literally, a couple years after these books came out, this one came out 2 years ago, this one came out a little over a year ago, 4 years after we started talking about the penning of these books, the trad wife has hit the popular mainstream conservative culture. I never thought it would happen. When I wrote this book, The Case for Patriarchy, I thought that ship had sailed, and now it is all over. I'm going to play for you a rap song about trad wives, a couple Michael Knowles clips, a Matt Walsh clip. I'm going to play you Babylon Bee. I'm going to show you how hard this has hit conservative mainstream, and it's so good. Stay tuned for today's show on the popularization of the trad wife, which is really based on the thesis of this book, which is that feminism was the OG gender dysphoria, the original form of homosexualism, the original form of transgenderism. Because if a man and a woman can agree to swap roles, and they can do so in the bedroom, you can swap out a man for a woman in the bedroom. That's homosexualism. If a man and a woman can swap roles, which is just feminism, then a man could actually functionally, ergonomically be swapped out fungibly for a woman or vice versa. Stay tuned for today's show. Why don't we open with that Bryson Gray song? I want to get Bryson on this show. It's going to be quite a fun time. Bryson's a Protestant guy. It's all about the trad wife and how it's so much better than any other alternative.
Yeah.
Hey, your girl a feminist, my girl traditional, my girl conservative, your girl a liberal, your girl got OnlyFans, my girl ain't sending news, your girl can't cook, my girl can do it in the kitchen too. Hey, this is for the homemakers. Hey, this is for the homemakers. Hey, dancing through a homemaker. Hey, this is for the homemakers. Hey, it's gonna be your wifey favorite song. You providing that work, and she take care of the home. And she homeschooling, teaching your children was right or wrong. Instead of letting the government turn them into clones. Hey, 2 parents working and who raising the children. Indoctrination programs is where you choosing to send them. And I know it's not on purpose, but let's look at it different. Everybody think about it first before you get in your feelings. Where they at? Where they at? Where they at? Where they at? They the come to change us. They the come to make us. She the queen, she the teacher, she the chef and baker. When you do it God's way, then he gon' show you paper. Hey, Proverbs 31:30 type of woman. 1 Timothy 2:9 type of woman.
Hell yeah.
Jezebel, you see those start running. God way, yeah, the highway, that's how we coming. Hey.
There you go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Bryson Gray. Look, we didn't know it was going to start this kind of avalanche, and it's nothing but good. So on today's show, we're going to commit some time to showing how the popularization of the trad wife stems from the thesis of the book, which is that feminism, which condemned trad wives and tried to transform all trad wives, is the original form of homosexualism, transgenderism as political ideologies. How do those two things go together? There's an abstruse connection, but I want to help spell it out for you. I think what's happened, by final opening statement, is we're going to do the Michael Knowles response to TikTok in a second. And Michael Knowles is a friend of this show. And he's endorsed 2 of my books and has talked at great lengths about Catholic Republican. Now he's really popularizing the thesis of this book. It goes like this. Well, let's do the Michael Knowles TikTok first. I think what happened is, the Marines are the first ones in. Steph and I wrote these books, and it's like, this is a way, it's just true. It's the main assault on Western civilization. It's a way to save Western civilization. It seems super based, super cutting edge. Everyone treated it that way in the Catholic world. You had like Matt Fradd's audience freaking out, and Matt freaking out a little bit because I was like, well, men and women are different. And a dozen passages in the Bible, a dozen papal encyclicals, they back up what we already know by natural law, that men and women have different roles in the family. Man's is to lead, woman's is to follow, and all of the roles shake out accordingly. It sounds really based and cutting edge, but it's not. Aside from some sort of people that were really afraid in the Catholic world, mainstream conservatism, I'm not using that as a slur, because I think my friend Michael Knowles is the best of mainstream conservatism. I think this guy could be president, and I think he would do what he has to do. And I haven't said that about any president in my lifetime, including Trump, who was more based than other Republican presidents for a year or so and then got taken over by globalists. I think Knowles could really pull this off. And when he started talking about it, I think the realization was what I realized. I'm not really risk averse when I write Case for Patriarchy. It seems cutting edge, but it's not. It's actually rather banal. I mean, culturally, the context is not that it's banal to say, but it's rather simple. And all over TikTok, you have women posting as trad wives, and they're like, this is just what I want to do with my life. And then the feminists, the trans, the homosexualists are all like, my whole view is that I can't tell her what to do. Of course, they're hypocrites and they go back on this all the time, but we really can't tell them not to be trad wives. So in Knowles' book, Speechless, he talks about the dialogue between Simone de Beauvoir and Betty Friedan, and how Simone de Beauvoir is like, you can't give women the choice, Betty. Like, you Americans love choice, you love your liberty. If feminism is to prevail, you must make women get in the workforce. It's work, it sucks. Women hate it. Men hate it, but men have to do it as part of the curses of Adam and Eve. Men have to, women have to do labor pains, not labor wages. Labor pains, not labor wages. So make them the way we do in France, or else it's not going to work. Women are waking up today after the boomers kind of dropped the ball on this, and they are realizing, holy cow, staying at home is much more fun than going to work. Sleeping in is much more fun than hitting the snooze button and then hating your life and getting up, taking a shower, going into some crummy cubicle. Okay, let's look at based Michael Knowles going through this TikTok video. I'm going to let it run a little. It's really, really, really good.
A specter is haunting Western sexual relations. The specter of the trad wife. Sounds pretty nice. Sounds really great. This video is brought to you by Genucel. More from them in just a little bit. First, though, TikToks from libs. Angry at women who don't want to be libs. Take it away.
This is a gem.
It's
this lady.
Blood and soil. Like,
It's getting...
you know?
Yeah, I do.
Like, is it from the Nazi Women's Magazine? Or is it from 2022 TikTok? Like, I just can't tell. Who knows? I just think that if I was part of a movement that had a lot of crossover with fascists and neo-Nazis and Nazi culture, I would probably make sure that my propaganda for my lifestyle did not, like, immolate the 1920s and 30s.
Emulate.
Do you know, like, what I mean? Just how I do stuff, though, you know.
Cool, dude.
So right now,
No,
you're a
keep it.
single
Let
guy.
it go. We'll let it go.
You gotta pick one of those two women to be your wife. Who do you pick? I'm not even saying based on looks, obviously.
The
trad
one with
wife
the bad
prefers
eyeshadow.
to be the other woman possibly could be pretty, but she was not trying to make herself look very pretty, and she was trying to make herself seem,
apathetic and speaking in that way the millennials do in the vocal fry. Which
No
is
trans,
just
Michael.
An expression of apathy because you're not even putting your breath underneath your voice, and it's
is the trad wife all happy, baking a pie or whatever she's doing, dolled up, looking good. And then her argument, the argument for why her way of life, which does not seem to be leading her to very much flourishing. She just doesn't seem that happy. The trad wife seems very happy. You know the tree by its fruits. Her argument as to why you should not be the trad wife or like the trad wife is that if you are traditional, if you are married to a husband and you have traditional women's roles, you're basically a Nazi. Step one, get married and cook for your husband. Step 2, step 3, you're a Nazi. I think you might need to flesh out that idea a little bit more.
All right, we'll stop there. I'll say this. I watched 2 weeks back at CPAC, the competing narrative from Nicholas J. Fuentes. I watched it on Rumble, and he said a lot of cool stuff. He mentioned that Knowles talks only about trans. I liked a lot of what he said. He mentioned that Knowles will only talk about trans, but what about feminism? What about homosexualism? And I just wanted to tell him that even starting about 3 weeks ago is when I heard Knowles starting to talk about this. The first time I heard of it, I'm going to play you another clip, but there's only audio for it, no video, was on Matt Fradd's show with Matt Walsh. And that had just happened when Nicholas J. Fuentes was saying Knowles will not talk about feminism or homosexualism, one which underlies the other, which underlies transgenderism. And I'm like, this is just flat wrong. Someone tell him, because we should, as three different types of conservative, myself, Knowles, who's close to me, except on all things, but on scale of government issues. He's actually closer to Fuentes, I think, on big government conservatism. And then Fuentes himself, we got to be able to give plaudits. Like, this is amazing for me as one of the OG, probably the OG anti-feminist guy from this generation, along with my wife and my brother. I can give Knowles, this is amazing, thank you. And he makes it all sound so good. Fuentes ought to be able to give him plaudits too. I think he just doesn't know. They don't watch a lot of each other's content, which I understand when that happens. But it would be very interesting for someone like Fuentes, this total throwaway point, to figure out this has grown into a major part of Knowles's platform. It's a new part, the anti-feminism stuff, and he's, no brag, soft brag. He's listed me under what is Michael Knowles reading these days as one of his favorite 7 current authors that's publishing. That's a great source of pride. And he's been a good friend to me and to the show, and in many ways behind the scenes. So he's forwarded 2 of the books. So the fact that he's citing from this, I'm going to read you on page 4. It's really the second page of Case for Patriarchy, what household revolution looks like. This is like the 10th paragraph in the whole book, short paragraph. Just look at the metastasized forms of superfeminism that beset the West and even Christianity today. Homosexualism and transgenderism. As I will argue countless times in these pages, the worldview of feminism, which fooled your poor friend into cashing in his patriarch card, which I refer to in the opening line, is none other than a Christian precursor to transgenderism. It, too, is based on the fallacy that men and women can mutually agree to swap roles, but they cannot. This book will show you why this much is the case. It will also provide something of a path out of the woods for Christians, and Christians appear to be taking that path out of the woods. Now listen to this conversation between Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles on the Matt Fradd show. I think this probably had to horrify poor Matt Fradd. He's not on board for what they're saying here. He's not on board for the Case for Patriarchy thesis, which is fine. We can all be, agree to disagree. But a couple months back, I did a video and I just said, hey, Matt Walsh, what is a woman should be about feminism. It shouldn't be about transgenderism because of this. And I evidently he saw this or he read Case for Patriarchy, because listen to the amazing things he's saying. And again, congratulations. And listen to how Knowles responds. I don't watch Matt Fradd's content, but someone pointed this out to me. I thought, this is amazing and great. Okay, watch.
Don't want to go as far as one has to go.
This is Knowles.
Now we say, okay, transgender.
He says, conservatives don't want to go as far as we have to go just by attacking transgenderism. I hope someone, I know I have mutual friends with Fuentes, but I've never talked to him myself. And I hope someone points this out to him. Look, he's saying precisely what Fuentes and others have picked up from me somewhere along the way. That conservatives aren't going as far as they have to go. Who cares about transgenderism. Who even cares about homosexualism? They're both evil, wrong, shut them down legislatively by your police power of your state, not the Fed, but your state. But what destroyed 99% of America who are not gay and who are not gender dysphorics is that all of their mothers/wives are feminists. 99% of them. Even 99% of conservatives, even 99% of so-called trads wives are feminists. Okay? So conservatives, trads won't go as far as they need to go. That's the point. Listen to this.
Conservatives don't want to go as far as one has to go, which is...
Thank you.
Now we say, okay, transgenderism, that's fine, but non-binary, that's crazy. And what was the previous thing? We said, well, gay marriage is fine, but transgenderism, that's crazy. That was...
Think second page of Ask Your Husband, or actually page 4, what I just read you.
what we said 5 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, so
Then
it's-
before that, it was gay...
Divorce is
gay
okay,
rights.
maybe.
Yeah.
Or your contraception is okay.
At the very least, it goes back to feminism.
No, Matt, we're not, you know where he's going with this, Matt. He's not talking about contraception or divorce. The two things that center-right Catholics are allowed to talk about, contraception and divorce, those are evil. And I've talked a lot about divorce in regard to Pope Francis. Those are evil. But you're allowed to talk about those. I'm afraid, I don't know, I'm afraid you're not allowed to talk about the real undergirding, the real lane foundation of transgenderism, homosexualism, which is feminism, which is where Knowles is going, and Fred, God bless him, is tugging at his collar here.
Right. I mean, it's...
Feminism.
From
Is okay.
at the very least, it goes back to feminism, right? I mean, it's from feminism to gay rights to gay marriage to transgenderism to the non-binary stuff. The thesis is men and women are the same, effectively the same. So the conservatives who are now standing up on non-binary or transgenderism or gay marriage, are they willing to go back and say, no, feminism is wrong? Are they willing to say that? I find I am, but I think all of us are, but many of them will not.
And we know that they're not because many conservatives in the fight against transgenderism, they fully, take someone like J.K. Rowling or...
Yeah.
This is Matt Walsh. I'm gonna go find, I did a show 3 or 4 months ago saying, hey, Matt Walsh, good job on What is a Woman. Here's what the sequel should be about. It should be about this book, The Case for Patriarchy. Peppering in this book, Ask Your Husband. That's what is a Woman really should be. You could say What's a Woman Not, which is really what the name of your excellent documentary probably should have been. Then part 2 is What a Woman Is. Maybe that's the better name for it. Here's Walsh going further. Great comments by both of them. I think he saw the video we did 4 months back. I'm going to get that name.
One of these so-called gender-critical feminists and have fully embraced them as an ally. And the thing is, I would, if they wanted to work with us in the fight against the trans craziness, then I'll work with anyone. But we also have to keep in mind, although those feminists have made it clear they want nothing to do with us. I mean, J.K. Rowling a few months ago posted this whole tweet thread about how she wants nothing to do with me. I'm part of the problem. In fact, in her mind, I'm just as bad as the trans activists. But why does she say that? Well, because I'm anti-feminist. But then when you look back at feminism, this is really where it all begins. It's the feminists are the ones who came up with this idea that there's no fundamental real, or at least any real actionable difference between men and women.
Great. I think I cut him. I cut him off there. I think we have another video or two, don't we, on the Twitter feed? But here's the thing, 2 points. Number one, I would strongly urge a kind of arm linking. We've called it uniting the clans. It doesn't work in Catholicism, particularly among the spectrum of trads. It will never work. But I want one with all manner of conservatives who are far enough right-wing on this most important point, the center of leftism is feminism, abortion is feminism, to critique it. And Walsh has joined the ranks. God bless him. Knowles is on board. God bless him. Join the ranks. Awesome. Someone like Nicholas J. Fuentes, look at what the content is that's actually being put out by these guys. I say there should be an arm linking. And I know that Fuentes and the Groypers don't like Daily Wire, and it's the two Catholics on Daily Wire, along with the Protestant Clavin, who did a show I think yesterday or the day before that was almost all about feminism. So it's the Christians on Daily Wire, specifically the Catholics, leading the way, but Clavin also does a lot of anti-feminist content. He's a good Protestant Christian, whatever that means, God bless him, that are leading the way. And so I'd say, look honestly at their content, and maybe they can look honestly at yours and be like, look, we should find some common ground here. There's a lot. Knowles stands for bigger right-wing government than I do. I want smaller subsidiarian government. We got to talk about that. But he's closer to Fuentes on that issue than I am, and they're both close on the cultural issue. So I would just say, hey, I'm not afraid to use anyone's name, and I'm not afraid to give propers to anyone doing good work. Walsh, Knowles has always been known as a friend of the program. Clavin on Daily Wire, and Nicholas J. Fuentes had some great points at his alternate to the CPAC. I mean, great points. The only few places I disagree, scope of government stuff, but also revisit what Knowles is doing. Point number 2 on the clip I just played is who is leading the way on this center of leftism, on the critiques of the heart of radicalism, which is feminism. It's the two Catholics at Daily Wire, along with Clavin, Andrew Clavin, who did a great show. I think it was from yesterday. I'll have to check my texts. Do we have any other videos? This short man that's asked another pop culture question. What's more important, lowering prices or ending feminism?
Tech feminism or low gas prices?
Oh, I'm always about lowering the gas prices for sure.
Why?
Well, I think feminism's a demonic movement created by Satan to emasculate men, to get them out of the biblical order that God created.
Chapter 3.
I don't even drive like a gas-powered car. I drive a Tesla. I just don't like feminism. So, it's cringe.
God bless this dude. I mean, so this dude sounds like either he knows the Bible relatively well, and can sniff out the subtleties, or he knows chapter 3 of the Case for Patriarchy, which is about Lilith, apocryphal Lilith, from Talmudic Lilith, who's even worse than Eve, Adam's apocryphal other wife. We don't believe in her, but she's a demon goddess. And Eve herself. The original sin is the original form of leftism, which is why real leftism isn't homosexualism or transgenderism or even socialism, as much as I hate that. It's feminism, the original sin. Eve bossing around Adam, making suggestions to Adam. Eve dialoguing with the serpent at the door, if you will. This is a man's job as protector. Adam following the lead of Eve will always go wrong. And in this book, in both chapters 2 and 3, I show you how St. Jerome, St. Ambrose, St. Augustine, St. John Chrysostom, boy, is he hot. He's hot about it. We all have to suffer and die because man listened to woman as a servant follows the leader. It's the other way around. A very, very, very queenly servant, but a servant all the same. And man is a king servant, but he's the king. The wife submits to the husband in all ways. When the husband submits to the wife or follows the wife as if she's his leader, we suffered sickness, sin, death followed. And so, and then I also just show that the other big thing that Knowles is on a kick for is that comes straight out of this book. First, second, third, and so-called fourth waves of feminism are all equally bad. The first wave of feminism is actually the worst. And when I went on Matt Fradd's show coming up to 4 summers ago, and I said first wave feminism is actually the worst. There are no good strains of feminism. The middle way conservatives, the rhinos, will always say feminism's bad, but only radical feminism, right? There's some Catholic anti-feminists that say, oh, it's radical feminism that's bad. They mean second, third, fourth wave feminists. I say first wave feminism is absolutely the worst. And I show you that first wave feminism is more radical than even second or third wave feminism by showing you what their goals were at the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848. Same year, Marx published Das Kapital. 1848, Seneca Falls Convention. There are 5 precepts of first wave feminism that are incredibly bad. You're being lied to by the pro-feminist conservatives, pro-feminist Christians. Do you understand? Do you understand what's at stake here? I just can't believe this avalanche that we started, and I am so happy for the sake of the movement itself. I couldn't be happier. It's amazing. Whew. I tell you what. So the thing is, let's close on this note. I want to take it out on this note. We got a lot of flack for writing these 2 books. And we got a lot of flack. I don't want to get all the way into the tortured publication history of this one, right? This one was shelved for nearly a year in an attempt to boost its numbers, what its numbers would be. And I'm immensely proud that this book even got out. There was a lot of opposition to this book, lots of opposition to this book, more to this one. The main opposition to The Case for Patriarchy happened in the year and a half previous to its publication, because Sophia Institute Press is so committed to true Catholicism. So committed to true Catholicism. They're like, we are putting our heads down and we're going to publish some true iteration of this book. And it was a tortured way, and I'm not going to get all into the story of everything that happened, but God bless Sophia Institute Press. God bless its president, Charlie McKinney, for doing what he did. So, but which is publishing it after a really embattled path to publication. Now, Ask Your Husband, on the other hand, had an easy path to publication. But once it got published, hoo boy. It got really embattled. So that's all I'll say. And it is so nice, 3.5 years, almost 4 years, after I went on Matt Fradd's show, and that's kind of where I announced this book, was on that now infamous, we had a really nice time, Matt and I went back to his house, and he's got a lovely family. I think he felt like he was in hot water. He really didn't, because people loved that show. They didn't just love to hate it. It was only the feminists at Franciscan University or whatever that were mad. I've delivered a talk on this book since then at Franciscan, which was hilarious. But in those 3.5 to 4 years between now and then, an avalanche has begun. And so here's what we're going to do on Rules for Retrogrades. You might be able to guess. We are having a Stephanie Gordon, the OG of Ask Your Husband, led summit. It's going to be called the Ask Your Husband Summit or something like that. We're going to do this soon, probably next week, with a bunch of trad wives that we know and like. And unlike other Catholic women's summit that are supposedly right of center but aren't, which is all of the other ones that I've ever seen, this one will be just cool, normal. Most of them are friends in the Deep South. Louisiana, Mississippi, or Alabama. A lot of them wives that are trads that are not LARPing. They're cool. They are fun. They are funny. They are pretty. They are smart. They're trad wives. Because some of the trad wives I see on the internet are like, well, that's cool. They're doing this. I'm glad that we've helped really foundationally to start this avalanche. What a blessed avalanche it is. But some of the trad wives almost like the kind of borderline on this is looking fringier than it should be. See, among the trads, I'm always the one that's like, these ideas should be mainstream and are. I always sold to my high school students when I was a teacher, look, go back to church. Don't go to the Novus Ordo. I'll snicker at it too if I try to go to that. I won't take that seriously if I try to go to that. go to the TLM. Cut to the heart. So my apostolate here on Rules for Retrogrades is always centered around the notion that cut out the middle way where you're trying to popularize being Catholic or being a man who's virtuous or a woman who's virtuous by going through steps. Just take them right to the terminus. The terminus is be a trad husband, be a trad wife, go to the TLM. And when this is sold and, sorry, Pope Francis, evangelized properly, it's going to be very popular. I felt at times that there are folks among traditionalists that want to keep a cloister around the TLM. I want it to be the only mass. I want to expunge the Novus Ordo Missae, the NOM. We want to go back to the TLM exclusively. Insecure people get like, well, if this happens all the way, then our little club won't be special anymore. I don't care about that. I feel special in all my own little ways, my own little life, my own little niche, my own little corner and hobbies. Same thing with this. I just want this to be the norm. You save America, you save the church by having men be virtuous leaders and wives be virtuous followers. That's 100 times more important than economy or even liturgy or at a scale of government, scope of government, taxation schemes. 100 times more important, or even homosexualism or transgenderism. It's 100 times more important than all these things. Why? Because most people aren't smitten by homosexualism, transgenderism, or, for the moment here in America, socialism. That's not fully true, but everyone, aside from 1 out of 100, probably 1 out of 500, is smitten by crypto-feminism, even by women who don't think they're feminists. So this conference, it's not going to be a conference yet. We'll do a full-on conference you can pay for, like the Hope is Fuel conference that my buddy Pat Coffin just did online. You can still go to that, right? T. Gordon 10. You can still go to hopeisfuel.com and get that thing watched. It's a recording. It's not live. We might do something like that this summer. But first, we just want to do a summit. Steph will host it. There's going to be some folks you recognize and some folks you don't, but all will be women who are legit trad wives, who are not LARPers. They're funny, fun, pretty, smart, bright, living this way in reality, not selling some caricature of it. Do you have anything you want to say about that, Steph?
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about this today because I've noticed that a lot of the quote-unquote women's Catholic conferences,
all of them.
I'll say all of them. Just all of them are awful. Like they don't really want to touch the actual issues that matter to a Catholic wife. They want to it's basically just pandering. It's always just telling women what they're good at and giving them excuses to do things that they probably shouldn't be doing, like working outside of the home. And so I just wanted to provide, first off, I just wanted you all to see my some of my friends, and different ages. Some just started their married lives, some of them are a little bit older than I am even, and just kind of get a good sense of the people that I have in my life. And secondly, I've been getting lots of emails from women who are just like, who do you hang out with, and what's your circle like? So I just wanted to provide this good example because I'm just tired of the watered down hooray for everything women's conferences that are just pandering nightmares.
Yeah, and I think we have already panelists who will join this Ask Your Husband Summit that are from their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. And it's not going to be over large, but they're all friends and friends of the show. And it's going to be an amazing mix of personalities, if you ask me. And like we said, I get sick of men's Catholic conferences where the men are really just saying soft leftism. They're soft peddling ideas of radicalism. I am really sick of the fake anti-feminism from within center-right, which are really center-left Catholic circles, right? Just a few names. And remember, like, Abigail Favale was sort of peddling her stuff as soft anti-feminist. It's not. It's pure feminism. Carrie Gress wrote an anti-feminist book which just doesn't go nearly far enough, and therefore is like, you know, it's the equivalent of damning anti-feminism with faint praise.
Piffle.
What? Piffle. It's piffle. Who else? Who else did we have in mind, really, that are like, they run, like speakers, you know, Jackie Francois Angel. It's soft feminism. It's anyone that's in the mutual submission crowd. They're bringing a false gospel. This couldn't be any clearer. We've proven this. The church has affirmed this. The popes have all said it. There is no debate on it. So it's not attacking these people personally. It's a question of telling people what the truth is and saying, look, here's the crowd that is really bringing you a false gospel.
And we want them on our team.
We want them on our team.
I want these women to take their head out of the sand and just join us.
Yeah. Jackie Francois Angel, whoever, even Abigail Favale.
Yes.
We want her on the team. Carrie Gress. We want you guys all the way against feminism. There's no way to be a halfway feminism. Ain't no such thing as halfway cooks. Remember that ad campaign for your book put together by our great friend Nick? There ain't no such thing as halfway cooks. You're either a total anti-feminist or you're part of the problem. And that's been the way with women's conferences in Catholicism. It's been the way with men's conferences, conference on masculinity. Then you're like, okay, so how many of you guys are really leading your wives and children in a complete way? And what always comes up in the first 5 minutes of these men's conferences are like, well, me and my wife really have this model of a diarchy. A diarchy. I'm like, oh, the JP2 thing. I was talking to Dr. Micah Hickson about this behind the scenes. She's the one that gave me that term. Diarchy is the false concept that JP2 gave to women about the family. And it's far more dangerous than homosexualism or transgenderism. The idea of a diarchy within the family. It is a monarchy. Thank you very much, Dr. Micah Hickson. You're one of my favorites.
Amen.
She's told me, hey, my husband doesn't want me appearing much in front of the screens or else, because I'm always quoting her. She's a great writer, a great thing for a woman to do in the home, to research and write. Same thing, Pace, Julia Meloni. Great people who I'm always quoting from, who are women, but they're staying in the home. They're not exposed to dangers. They're not out of the home. They can still bake a bread while they're writing on their laptop 2 feet away. And the church is express about its affirmation. This is okay. Work in the home or near the home. And boy, I just, there are so many great women. And at this Ask Your Husband Summit that we hope to do later next week, you're going to meet some of them, some of the most amazing people that are really just Steph friends. A lot of them we've met through the show, and you'll recognize some of them. Boy, it's exciting because we started an avalanche, and I am the opposite of one of these guys that wants the TLM to be cloistered. I am not one of these guys that wants patriarchy affirmation and feminism skewering to build a cloister around it or a garden fence around it. I want it to go big. Thank you to Catholics who are better known as conservatives than Catholics, like Knowles and Walsh, for putting this out there. Thanks to Fuentes and the Groypers for also taking up the call against the feminists, right? We don't all have to agree about everything. Good job, because this is the main issue.
And we're going to cover, what I want to do is I want to take it in the totally opposite direction of all these pandering women's conferences. We're going to talk about things like obedience and true femininity and the leadership of our husbands in the home. I want to ask them things like, the women's conferences always talk about, oh, you're enough, you're enough, you're enough. No, we as Catholic women should be growing constantly towards our Lord and changing ourselves and making ourselves better. I'm going to ask these women, where were you? What were some of the things that you changed? A lot of them were feminists at one point. They switched over to this way of life. We're going to be talking about those sorts of things. So this is not going to be a typical hooray for everything, you're good enough, just the way you are conference. it's going to be one of substance, hopefully.
The show that I referenced earlier that I did, saying, Matt Walsh, congratulations on such a sweeping success in terms of views. What is a Woman? Great job. It was called What is a Marriage? What Walsh Should Have Said to Rogan. And it was from November 14th. So I was right almost to the day. I said between 3 and 4 months ago, right? And it sounds like God blessed, very, very able Matt Walsh might have seen the video, or Noel showed it to him, or maybe even read The Case for Patriarchy. I'd really like to get these guys on and be like, this seems to be a major pivot point in your direction. Careful with her near there. Sorry, just talking to one of the chillins here with the little baby. Who's the newborn is right near us, by the way, at all times. Yeah, they all hear. But this is just great for them. No, you can leave that door open. Great for Walsh and Knowles. I love these guys. I don't know Walsh personally. I've texted with him a couple of times, but I love Knowles, and what Walsh is doing is so good for the culture. They really need to do What a Woman Is as a follow-up, and it will be 10 times more explosive than What is a Woman, which merely attacked transgenderism. Here's what I said on November the 14th, which I think they've seen. Greetings, pairs, orphans, and retrogrades. Happy Monday. Such a thing doesn't exist, but I say it anyway. Today I'm going to be talking about a recent event on November the 7th. Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire, a fellow Catholic, went on Joe Rogan's podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, and what began as a conversation in agreement where Joe Rogan and Matt Walsh agreed about transsexualism, specifically Matt Walsh's documentary, What is a Woman, turned into a friendly sort of debate about homosexual marriage. So the reason this is so important, and so many people are talking about it now, no one's going to offer the analysis that this show is. I have some bombshells for you, some bombshell connections, is because it's so very important. Society has given way to a non-natural view of both men and women, and the non-natural view of both men and women, which I'll name at the end of today's show, is what's causing all sorts of kinks. And that is the key word, a kink. Transsexualism, drag shows, transitioning, so-called, whereby a gender dysphoric person believes they can become the opposite sex, a view that there are multiple sexes. No multiple one, genders, and I repeat, no one outside of, well, myself and my wife, who refers to this in her book, Ask Your Husband, is getting this all the way correct. By attacking feminism. So that's November the 14th. That is almost exactly 4 months ago. And when I said it, it was right, okay? I said no one, absolutely no one. I wish I'd spit it out faster. Sometimes you listen to your own show and you say that. No one, absolutely no one, is saying that feminism underlies homosexualism, transgenderism, the binary stuff. Well, that ain't right anymore, Mr. Gordon. See, I take other people to task. I'm taking myself to... Now, I don't think I was wrong when I said it, but that just shows how much stuff has changed over the last 4 months. Trad wives are popping up everywhere. It's beautiful. The connection from the second page of this book between feminism, homosexualism, transgender, now gender binary stuff has been made explicit by the guy I was addressing there, Matt Walsh. I think Michael Knowles has, if I suspect correctly, been the facilitator. Like I said, I quoted that one passage from Matt Fradd, who also had on George Farmer, Candace Owens' husband. I'd love to have him on the show. George, if you're watching, you brought up Catholic Republic, my first book, with Matt, and Matt said, no, I haven't read it, which was funny, which is fine. But I'd love to have you, George, on this show about any of this stuff, Catholic Republic or The Case for Patriarchy, if you're watching. But they were talking about basically 2 of my books on Matt's show, and Matt was saying, "Oh, I haven't read this," but that was such a positive direction. God bless Matt for having these 3 guys on, even if he disagrees with them about feminism. Thanks for having people on that you disagree with. I'd have loved to have come on and talk about Case for Patriarchy. Steph would have loved to have come on about Ask Your Husband instead of maybe Abigail Favale for the umpteenth time. But the point is, I was wrong. Or at least if I said what I said 4 months ago, I'd be wrong today, because the culture has changed in conservatism just in the last month. Deus Volt, folks, we are so proud to have brought you that anti-feminism avalanche. Prepare, suit up. It's going to be a big event. The Ask Your Husband Summit. You're going to recognize some faces. You will find some new faces to cheer for that you probably will not recognize. It's going to be a hell of a thing. And Steph is going to be hosting it, we hope, next week, if not the week after that. God bless you all from the top of the mountain where we start anti-feminism avalanches. Deus Volt, my friends.